if you're in a marriage where you're the only one working, you're the only one trying to, work through things in the marriage, that's not a healthy place for you to be. You can't do that alone.
Right. Hi, I'm Tim Tedder, the creator of affairhealing.com. This episode is the first in a two-part conversation with Sharon Barbour, one of our coaches, about a decision many people consider after an affair: leaving their partner. In this episode, we focus on the timing of that decision and the kinds of decisions that matter most early on, both for the betrayed partner and for the one who broke the trust. In the next episode, we'll turn toward the emotional side of the choice, things like grief and shame, co-parenting, starting new relationships, and even some of the religious questions that can surface around separation and divorce. Before we jump in, I want to let you know about a simple way to stay connected. About once a week, I send out an email with new resources, upcoming events, and ideas related to healing and change after an affair. If you'd like to receive that, you can sign up at affairhealing.com/newsletter. No spam, just updates and encouragement. All right, let's talk about deciding to leave after an affair.
Welcome to The Recovery Room, a podcast presented by affairhealing.com.
In this healing place, in this healing place.
When should someone start considering whether or not they should heal alone rather than with their partner?
Well, from the opinion or viewpoint of the injured spouse, first off, above anything else, don't make the decision too quickly.
Well, I'd say that for either one of them, that would be true, right?
Yeah. Because from the viewpoint of the injured spouse, the uncovering of a betrayal like that is an enormous upheaval in your emotional and mental state. You're in shock sometimes.
You probably just feel like running.
Yeah, you're in traumatic levels of varying severity. Mm-hmm. So you cannot really make a good decision in the outset of that kind of information.
I mean, there are a lot of permanent choices that might need to be made through this whole healing process. In regards to marriage, relationship, children, money, we really encourage people not to make choices that are going to have permanent consequences in those first days or weeks.
Yeah, I would say at least weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably talking about months in most situations until those emotions settle down to the place where you're seeing them with a kind of clarity that can move you towards really good choices.
Right. Well, and I think that you need counseling in there.
Well, we a little biased in that, but
because I think that, and I do believe that you would probably be able to make the decision more quickly if you have good, solid counseling going on to work through all of that shock and trauma.
Well, I certainly would say getting healthy, balanced input from the people you trust and that care about you, and especially those that can give a little bit more objective perspective on everything that's going on, can be helpful. At this point in the conversation, Sharon and I move into the specific factors that can influence a decision to leave. We start by looking at the things from the injured partner's perspective, and then we shift to what might lead an involved partner to consider leaving. So let's say that the injured spouse has given it some time.
Okay.
And now they're coming to a place of choice. What should be the measure, the considerations in determining whether they stay or go?
I think that a lot of it has to do with how they perceive the betraying partner as moving toward them or being willing to work it out. I think we've spoken with a lot of people who want it to work out, but they, after some time has gone by, the affair person still doesn't show much movement toward them. They still don't show much investment in the relationship. They kind of want to either ping pong back and forth between the affair partner and the spouse, or they want to kind of pretend it never happened and just move on and forget it. Why are you still bothering me about this?
Yeah.
So in those cases, the injured spouse really needs to go,
So there's someone who would like to be able to put their marriage back together again or find healing in their marriage. They're willing to do that, but they're not able to do it because they're with a partner who's not willing or able to do their part in it.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing to kind of pay attention to. Are you the only one working in the marriage anymore?
Yeah. And by the way, that's not always obvious right off the bat,
No.
especially if an affair is uncovered and not confessed from the beginning. But I think the longer it takes to get there, the less chance your marriage is going to have to survive.
Sure.
The harder it's going to be for you to ever trust. So as time goes by, if you're with a spouse who is not able or willing to do their part in making the changes to earn your trust back again and heal your marriage, then that's probably time to say, I can't do this alone.
Yeah, because you have to be going by what is healthy for you at that point. If you're in a marriage where you're the only one working, you're the only one trying to, work through things in the marriage, that's not a healthy place for you to be. You can't do that alone.
Right.
If you're listening as someone who had an affair and you're trying to make sense of what happened, why it happened, what you can learn from it, and how to move toward a healthier way, I want to tell you about the Renovate Project. Renovate offers several options, and I'd love to learn more about you to determine which would best suit you. You can find out more information at affairhealing.com/renovate.
I think there's another situation in which the injured spouse may be unable to find healing in their marriage and so has to move on alone. And that would be in cases where their personal story is one of severe past maybe abuse or abandonment. And sometimes the experience of an affair is just beyond their ability to move back to trust again because it just triggers those past wounds.
Sure.
That's not anything that has to do with their being too weak. It just means they have an experience that makes them especially vulnerable to that kind of wound. And so they may say, I wish things could be different, but I don't think I can bear this and trust again.
Also, I think there's something to be said for patterns again there, where if the betrayed spouse realizes, wait a minute, this is a pattern in my life. I've had other people cheat on me repeatedly, and I need to really figure out my own stuff here and figure out what's driving me to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's some deeper issues there that they need to investigate.
That kind of touches on another idea, that sometimes the experience of an affair or infidelity can bring an awareness to both spouses, both partners, that their vision for a healthy relationship or a desired relationship or marriage, maybe for the first time they realized we don't have the same vision for what that looks like. Or maybe one of them has changed in ways that you begin to measure and say, we're not even working towards the same goal. And I've said this before, but it's like two people trying to build a house using two different blueprints.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Right.
You're constantly going to be frustrated and conflict with one another. So I've had couples come in, and because they've never been clear about what they were working towards, their whole marriage has been one experience of frustration. From the very beginning, it's because they've been always moving in different directions in the relationship. And now maybe they're realizing it for the first time.
Sure. Because nothing big enough came out to unveil all that until the affair.
So those are some of the reasons why an injured spouse might be unable to move forward with a partner. But I guess I want to leave room for choice here. Maybe sometimes the betrayed spouse is just not willing to do that. I mean, we've said that we believe that person who has been betrayed, someone broke the promise that was made to them. At that moment, they have a right to leave if they choose to do that.
Sure. Absolutely.
And especially if it's a repeated pattern.
Oh, especially. No, at some point you recognize there's a pattern there. You have to say, at this point, I'm just making that choice.
If it's a repeated pattern and there's nothing obviously different about this time around, then that would be a context in which we'd probably encourage people to consider whether
I know
they should
I
be
would,
willing
just
to.
because that is my story too from my first marriage. There was a repetition there. It happened many, many times, sprinkled throughout our marriage of only 4.5 years. So by that time, I really felt like I need to make a healthy choice for myself. And the healthy choice for myself is to move out of this.
Let's consider the timing issue from the perspective of the one who is involved in an affair. I mean, in much the same way, they may need to move forward alone if they are unable or unwilling to do so with their partner, but probably for different reasons. The unwillingness may come from simply their choice
I want to spend the future with my affair partner.
Right.
And you know what? If they're making that choice, they need to declare it and do it. Don't play this
Absolutely.
game of, well, that's what I want, but I'm going to make you so miserable that maybe you finally leave, or make these superficial efforts and say, hey, see, I tried counseling or whatever,
Right.
and it just
Not
didn't
that
work.
they would do that intentionally most
Well,
of the
some
time.
people do.
Some people do.
Yeah, some
I
people
agree.
play that game.
But some people are that out of touch with their own issues and their own bad coping mechanisms that they don't even realize that they're doing that they would rather lay the blame on the betrayed spouse. Like, oh, well, she didn't want to work it out. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there are times that I've worked with a couple for a while, and just working individually with the one that was involved in an affair. After a while, if they remain stuck and just can't stop wanting to be with the affair partner, despite the work that I encourage them to do and the time I encourage them to take on understanding themselves and what they envision for a healthy future, if they're still saying to me, I want to be with the affair partner, whether I agree with it or
Right.
not. I'm not their spiritual guide. I'm not the one who gets to come in and play God in their life to make their choices for them. But if they cannot move away from that choice after a period of time, make the choice.
Right.
Go. Otherwise, to stay in this indecisiveness, we call it the ping pong effect. There's a past podcast about that. What that does is just wears everybody down.
Everybody.
I mean, can you think back? How many times have you seen a good outcome after an extended ping pong?
Man.
It hardly ever happens. It gets worse and worse for everybody.
burns everything
involved.
out,
I'm not saying
yeah.
there can't be a period of that. That's pretty common at the beginning.
Right,
But
a
that
period.
starts going on for months and months.
Months and months,
And they just go
sometimes
back and
years.
forth, and it's up to the betrayed spouse to kind of keep pushing and making decisions. That's not going to
Oh
have a
gosh,
good outcome.
no. It's so damaging.
And I think there's another circumstance in which the involved spouse may be unwilling to move forward in their marriage. Even if they don't want to stay with the affair partner, sometimes they may look at the work required
Right.
and decide, you know what, I don't think my marriage has enough value for me, or I'm not interested in working on change myself. And so if that's what's required to fix this, I'd rather just move on, cut my losses and leave.
And if that's their feeling
If
about
that's their
it,
opinion.
I will encourage them to go
Right.
as much as possible.
No, we're not
because-
saying that that's the choice we like to see people
No.
make. But again, we can't reach into people's hearts and minds and twist them around and make them change.
Right.
If they come hungry to understand and want to move and heal, we can be really honest with them and help them understand what it means to gain clarity in those areas. But if in the end, they're saying, I'm not really interested in change. This is the way I've lived all my life. Don't want to do anything different.
Well, then there's nothing
then
to
leave.
do to make them stay. That's the thing.
Right.
They are 100% not going to be able to do the work, make the changes, do all that stuff because they don't want to.
And in that unwillingness, that may be the choice that, and some do just leave. It's too much work.
Yeah.
It's too much expected of me or
Yeah.
necessary from me.
And then I would say for everyone's sake, go ahead and say goodbye and go because especially for the betrayed spouse at that point.
Right. But there are circumstances sometimes when the involved spouse wants to work on their marriage and wants to move with their spouse towards healing, but they're unable to do that. Mm-hmm. When do we see that happening?
Oh, well, I would say when the betrayed spouse is just really struggling and can't seem to move out of the unforgiveness part. They can't seem to move through the traumatic part of it, or they're just not able to get to where they can forgive the person and move forward and trust them again. And
Yeah, no, this is a tricky thing to talk about because I bet a lot of betrayed spouses out there are saying, hey, don't. I mean, they want to leave because my emotions are high and it's really hard for them to stay connected with me. So it sounds like you're giving my spouse an excuse to just say, yeah, I can't put up with this and go. We have a strong message to unfaithful spouses. You need to hang in there. This is going to take time. You need to be patient. If you really want to bring healing, this is going to take longer than you want it to take. It's going to be harder than you expect it to be.
Right.
And it's going to feel a little lopsided for a while.
yeah, and okay.
But you need to be willing to come in and provide what's necessary to help your spouse heal.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to walk away from that belief and
Right.
that encouragement. But we also want to be very clear that the person who's had an affair is not destined to a lifetime of just having to pay the consequence in their marriage.
Right.
To be with a spouse who just said, hey, you know what? Don't ever expect me to forgive you.
Right.
You don't have the right to expect anything good from me. You're just going to have to live with it.
Right.
And we've seen couples who for years
Yeah.
are living in that dynamic where the betrayed spouse is just angry and feels they have a right to be angry, and I'll never forgive you.
Right.
For this.
And here's the thing. I think that the difference lies in the betrayed spouse, because sometimes people don't really want to get through it and forgive and move forward and trust again.
I can hear a lot of people go, what?
Yep. And this is not most people. I'm not talking about most people, because most betrayed spouses do want to work it through, and they're torn up about it, and they want to be okay, and they want to feel better, and they want to do all that. And no matter how much of a struggle it is and how much they're triggered, they still hang in there and try to figure out, how they can move through this stuff.
Well, why would some people not want to?
Well, in rare occasions, there are people that, because of their own woundedness, because of where they are, they find themselves kind of stuck in this mindset that if they let go and they forgive, it's kind of letting their spouse off the hook. Mm-hmm. It's kind of saying what you did was okay. Yeah. And that is not true, right. But that's how it feels. And I get that's how it feels. I've struggled with that in my own life, but it isn't how it actually is. And the betrayed spouse then sits there almost intentionally not wanting to get healing and not wanting to work it out. Mm-hmm. Again, this is a rarity. This isn't the norm. It's not even equal amounts of people that do this.
Yeah. And don't you think sometimes that staying in that angry state, that accusing state, that justice state is just safer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I can be angry with you, and I can keep my guards up, I can judge you, and I don't have to risk anything.
No.
If I work towards forgiveness, if I work towards connection with you again, I could really be hurt.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to put my armor on, get my weapons out, and you better live with it, buddy, because this is the consequence of what you've done.
Right. And I think a lot of times when we have that 1% of people that kind of get stuck there and doesn't give it up and doesn't want to move forward, I believe that almost always, if you look in their family of origin story, in their past relationship story, there are wounds there of betrayal that are deep, and they have learned that if they kind of live in that pain, that it justifies what they already believe about the world, if that makes sense. This is a mean place, really, and people hurt me. And it kind of justifies that worldview that they may have already had even before this marriage and this infidelity.
I suspect the number of marriages that stay together after an affair that are characterized by anger and unforgiveness and this ongoing, you're the bad person, don't expect anything good from me. I think it's higher than 1%.
Oh, okay.
I think it's significantly higher than that.
Really?
It'd be great if it wasn't, but how many couples that's struggling 3 and 4 years after the affair, and that dynamic is set up where the person that was betrayed is still entrenched in anger and judgment, and there's no softness, there's no grace, or I shouldn't say no, but there's little softness, there's little grace, there's little forgiveness. And the person that had the affair is just resigned to the fact as, well, I guess this is the way it is, going to have to live with this the rest of my life. And I say to someone who had the affair, you are 100% responsible for that. You broke the vows of your marriage, and you did deep, deep damage to your relationship and to your spouse. You need to be hyper-focused on the changes you need to make for healing yourself and for healing this relationship and making it safe again. But there are times when I see the efforts that a person is making in that regard, and nobody's perfect, so nobody's going to get it 100%, but they really are making consistent efforts to make that repair to the damage that they caused. And months and years down the road, there's no give or very little give in their spouse. They're quick to anger. They're constantly judging. And at some point I say, well, you have the right to expect a partner who's going to join you in the healing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, again, just like I said before, both people have to be working. Both people have to be willing to do what it takes and work the process and move toward forgiveness, move toward mutual understanding and connection. both people have to be there.
And to the betrayed partner who may listen to this and saying, why should you expect anything from me? I didn't break that.
It's for you.
And you're right. But end your marriage if that's
Right.
the result
Oh, no,
of it.
exactly.
Don't stay in a marriage where you're
No.
saying, well, I'm not going to move back into that vulnerability
Because then
where
you're in
something's
pain
expected.
too. You're not just putting pain on the person who had the affair. You're living in agony.
Right. Yeah.
That's a terrible place to feel that you are living continually every day.
There is a portion of my conversation with Sharon that we didn't include in this episode. It's where we talked about the importance of getting good legal advice. If you'd like to hear us talk about that, you can find the audio segment on the episode page on our website. The link is in the episode notes. You'll also find information about coaching with either Sharon or me. I work with individuals and couples with a particular focus on men and women who have had affairs. Sharon specializes in working with betrayed partners, especially around trauma and triggers. In the next episode, we'll continue with this conversation by looking more closely at emotions, parenting, new relationships, and religious questions that can come up when someone is deciding whether to leave.
Faith